Hey, Twisted listeners. I'm Cindy,
And I'm Diva.
and this is Twisted Listeners, a podcast about murder.
And Liz.
And we're late again, and it's my fault again. My boss is still on maternity leave. She'll be back very soon, but it's getting to the point now of like being busy to where like I can't, like, even if I have extra time, I just need to use it to like stare at the wall. You know what I mean? Like, does that ever
Yeah,
happen to you? You're
yeah.
so busy, it's like I can't do anything else. So, guys, I apologize that we are running behind schedule again. I take full ownership of that. It's my fault. Um, she's back. Like, she's actually not still on maternity leave. She's back part-time, but she'll be back full-time in about a week or so. So everything should go back to normal very soon. That's my disclaimer and my apology. This is part
And
two.
I
Uh,
have a
uh
baby, so that's my excuse for.
oh yeah. But you've been available. You've been available. It's been
Yeah,
me. Like,
yeah.
let's just
Well,
I
sometimes.
appreciate you trying to share the load, but I'm gonna take it.
I'm
It's my
just saying
fault.
that's my load of craziness, so
No, but you
it's rough.
you have all this insanity and craziness and new baby, and you're still available to record, and I can't get my shit together. So you're doing a fantastic job of time management, and I just want to make sure you
Ah,
know that because I know it can be hard when you have a
yeah.
baby.
And
But
I'm moving. It's very stressful.
everything is stressful. Yeah,
Ugh,
I'm so sorry.
yeah.
Well, anyway, this is part two of Copycat Killers. And yeah, I found one that actually felt nice and copycatty, or at least inspired by, which I thought was like a nice way to do it. I don't know. Like I said, I think we said last week, like the two that we chose for, or last episode, the two that we chose
Mm-hmm.
were like the most like obvious copycat
Yeah.
crimes. So the rest that were on the list were a little more like general or vague.
Right.
But this one I still thought was like pretty good, the one I found. So
Cool. Well, good because mine
yeah.
is pretty dinky.
Oh no.
But
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, we'll do it.
mine's only 2 pages of
For
research,
you is
but
quite short. Yeah.
yeah, so this might be a bit of a shorter episode.
Yes, that's fine.
We'll figure it out. Okay, so in any case, let's get down to it. I'm
Yeah.
going for first this time, is that right?
That's right.
No, you
Yes.
picked this, so you're going
Yes.
first.
Am I?
You're going
Okay.
first. Yeah.
It's too hard to
Okay,
figure out.
I know.
Okay. So
Okay.
I'm doing a total doofus named Derek Brown. Um, this is, like I said, it's dinky. You know those cases where you research and you're like, I could have sworn that I'd find that like it think piece on this, and then it's like, no, it's just
Mhm,
the same dinky short little article copy pasted everywhere, and you're like, fuck.
mhm.
Um, so it was kind of that.
Yeah, I hate
But
that.
then I like
Like,
I
"Oh,
just kind
another
of like this.
article," and then it's like, "Nope." Like, fuck.
Same thing.
Yeah.
So it's one of those, but I didn't really have enough time in my life to scrap it and just do a whole other one. I got too deep into this, so here it is. It's a quick bite. Um,
Okay.
but this happened in 2007. Derek Brown was 47 and a newspaper delivery driver originally from Preston, Lancashire, and he lived in East London in what I believe is in a
Okay.
neighborhood um, called Rotherhithe. Rotherhithe?
Okay. Rotherhithe
Rotherhithe?
might be more
Makes me want to lisp
correct.
it somehow. Hythe.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Who knows? Who knows?
Who knows?
So Derek, this is going to be kind of disjointed because, like I said, I only have what these articles want to tell me over and over again. But
Right.
I put them in some kind of order here. So a friend would later tell us that Derek frequently expressed a desire to be famous, and he was
Mm,
obsessed with Jack the Ripper. Here we go.
mm, mhm.
Jack the Ripper was apparently his quote unquote hero. So I don't know all the evidence for this besides that people say he is constantly saying this.
That he's
Um,
his hero.
yeah, he loves Jack the Ripper.
That's just dumb. That's
I
dumb.
mean, it's pretty cliche.
Yeah.
Library records. He spends a lot of time at the old public library because his library records indicate he did a lot of checking books out about true crime and serial killers, and especially books about Jack the Ripper.
Mm-hmm.
I guess especially by an author named Nigel Cawthorne. I don't know his books, but he was reading nonstop about Jack the Ripper as well. Um,
Okay.
Supposedly, he had a book checked out called Killers, the Most Barbaric Murders of Our Time, which is kind of redundant.
Yeah, that's weird.
I don't, because it's like
Like,
if you take out the adjectives, you're essentially saying killers, murderers. You know what I mean? Like it's like redundant.
yeah, that's a dumb name for the book.
It's a dumb
I'm just
title.
gonna say that.
Um,
Yeah, it was
yeah,
a very dumb
it
title.
seems kind of what's the term, like pulpy, like a trash book.
Yeah, it just
Probably.
sounds dumb. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So leading up to this time, records also indicate that Derek was buying a lot of stuff. He bought a
Mm,
bow saw, so very specialty kind of saw, a steam cleaner. He bought
mm.
waterproof sheeting. Um,
Okay.
he also brought a huge amount of quote unquote industrial strength cling film, which
Okay.
I guess means like plastic wrap.
Huh. Okay. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
he bought some Black and Decker power tools. So he's basically like, what's a serial killer like list? What do I need?
I
Um,
need my murder kit. Like, oh, okay.
yeah,
All right.
what's the shopping spree? So he's buying all this stuff. And fast forward to our main event here. 29-year-old Zhao Mei Guo was in Whitechapel in a market, I believe like an indoor kind of mall, and she was selling DVDs, kind of like a little street vendor.
Okay.
She was a Chinese immigrant, and she's originally from what do I have it here? I have it. Boop, 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 boop. Fujian, yeah, Fujian province in China, and she was just sort of, basically making a living, like, in a hard scrabble kind of tough way, but she was
Mm-hmm.
just making a living for her family.
Okay.
Um, she was, yeah, and she was last seen on a CCTV with Derek here, basically leading her away, walking with her near the Whitechapel tube station. So it's unclear why or how he got her to do that, but he
Like hang
does.
out with him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I meant to like research a little more about Whitechapel, the neighborhood, because I think like maybe you know London better than than I
I
do,
don't
but like
actually really know where that is. I'll look it
Whitechapel,
up.
I think it's in East London, right? It's a neighborhood
Yeah.
of London. Yeah, East London's part of the East End. But I kind of it's famous for the Jack the Ripper murders, if you didn't know. But I
Right.
wonder, what I meant to research and did not, is like, is it still like a bad neighborhood? Because in all the Jack the Ripper like media, movies, whatever, it's kind of like grimy and grungy, right? Where there's like, that's where the sex workers are, that's where the crime is, it's all dark and like, you know,
Absolutely, it's
um,
not. It's like north of the Tower of London. That's a very nice
it's
area.
not.
Yeah, no. No. I mean, I
Mm.
have been there not realizing
Oh,
that's
look
where I
here
was, and it's like nice.
On Quora here, someone asked, "Is Whitechapel still a crime-ridden slum?" Um, uh,
Jesus.
Someone asked. So what? People are saying it is.
No, it's here's what it says on the map. A vibrant multicultural district in the East End with many
Mm,
traditional pubs and curry houses and the lively Whitechapel market, a focal point for Asian food, discount fashion, and homewares. Anybody saying that is probably just a dickhead who's potentially racist. It's like
oh,
I've been in
maybe.
that area before and it's great. Like I walked through there and was like, this is a cool area. Like I'm
Okay.
looking at a map and I know exactly where it is. And like I had no
No,
issues with it.
it seems like reviews are mixed actually. On like some people are saying yes, some people are saying it's fine.
I think it's fine. Anywhere in the like that area of London is gonna be like, I mean, I don't know.
I mean,
Whatever.
there
I might
might
be wrong,
be
but
like some crime just because it's like a middle of a big city, but
what I remember from that
not more
area,
so.
what I remember from that area, and again, I might be misremembering, but I don't think so, is like a lot of London is very like old still. There's a lot of old architecture and like old buildings and all of that. in that area, like that side of the Tower of London, like past it, is like where I was seeing like the most like new construction, like the most like new buildings.
Mm,
Maybe I'm incorrect and I was looking in a different direction or something, but I feel like that area kind of up and behind. Yeah, I just found a picture that's all the new buildings I was talking about. I can see
yeah,
them all
there's
in
like
these
art
photos.
galleries and like, restaurant. It's fine. I'm sure it's
It's
fine.
probably like fucking Echo
Um,
Park in LA or something where it's like, oh, it's
yeah,
not super rich, so it's a slum. Like, oh, fuck off.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um,
okay.
okay, well,
Anyway,
that's
all
where it's
right.
on
So
Whitechapel.
Whitechapel. Yes. Okay.
Um, yes, but it is multicultural, so that's cool. Um, so anyway, that's just Zhao's disappearance, Zhao Mei. Um, that September, I believe that was like June or July. Then
Mm-hmm.
that September, in 2007, 24-year-old Bonnie Barrett disappeared from the Commercial Street red light district. I guess Whitechapel does have a red light district. Um,
Oh, okay.
and she was a sex worker who was struggling with addiction to crack.
Hmm.
Um, so both victims here are both people are kind of like vulnerable a little bit, and
Mm-hmm.
just being kind of, yeah, vulnerable and having a kind of a rough time in life for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so here's where I have I have a big gap of information. Just forgive me for this
Okay.
dumbass case. It's going to jump around to just Derek's arrested. What I didn't get was why Derek is like arrested. Like what?
Like
How
how
do
it
they
led to
identify
him
him?
getting, yeah.
Yes,
I hate when you
that's
can't
a
find that.
big chunk of information I did not see anywhere in the, again, copy pasted article, 20 articles about this. But
Right.
somehow, some way, motherfucking Derek is got. He gets got.
He gets
Um,
got. Okay.
and when they search his flat in Southeast London that October, so gets got pretty fast too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, last October, they find both Bonnie and Jamie's blood all over the fucking apartment. So that's like bip bop boop. All right, close the binders. Like we're done. We did it.
Mm-hmm.
Their blood is everywhere, even though they can tell that he attempted to clean and steam the blood out of, I guess, steaming out of like the carpet, I assume. Um,
I
but
mean,
it's
yeah.
didn't work. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
Um, specifically blood splatter is how they described it.
Mm-hmm.
And they believe that he got both of them back to his apartment somehow and then dismembered them there.
Ugh. Okay.
So that apparently
Hence the blood.
something about the quantity and patterning of the blood indicates dismemberment.
Ugh. Yeah.
When
Ugh.
they question him, he maintains his innocence, but he does claim that he solicited sex from both Bonnie and Xiaomei, even though Xiaomei wasn't known to be a sex worker. Who knows? Maybe he
Mm-hmm.
lured her back to the house for like work or some other thing, and then like or abducted her, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, who knows? Um,
Right.
but that's what he claims. So it's also like kind of a dumb move because it's like, okay, you're putting yourself with the both victims.
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah.
but
Like,
anyway,
oh
yeah,
well, whatever. Like I was
I
with them, but I didn't do it. Like, oh, okay, right.
I was innocent, but I was coincidentally I hung out with both of them.
Right. Right.
Okay. At trial, they discussed the findings of all the blood, which is like, again, what more do you fucking need?
Right.
There were 65 separate areas of blood in the house. They put apartment,
Mm-hmm.
um, smears or pools or spots, whatever. And
Yeah.
again, they were attempted to be steamed, but not successfully. They also found all that murder kit stuff, like I said. In addition, I forgot a few murder kit things: heavy duty gloves, sacks, big like
Jesus.
garbage sacks, I guess.
Yeah.
Cleaning materials, tons of different cleaning materials. He had stripped the walls. He had ripped up the carpet. So he's just like very poorly trying to hide his evidence and
Well, it's
clean
also
his
just
apartment.
like the evidence is like the hiding of the evidence is also kind of evidence. Like you fucking,
Yes, exactly. Why are you doing
like
that?
what the fuck?
Just really
Yeah.
got an itch to renovate the apartment that you rent?
Yeah,
Like,
like what the fuck?
what's going on? Yeah, so unfortunately, sadly, the bodies of Zhao Mei and Bonnie have never been found, despite actually extensive searches. So they recorded at least
Really?
800 hours worth of
Mm.
searches. They also did dives in the Thames, and like dredged the river and shit, and they didn't find
Just
a
still
single
couldn't.
thing. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. And judging by the several different cases that we've covered recently,
Hmm.
I'm gonna give you one guess where I'm gonna guess that he put them.
In the trash?
Yeah, I think he put them in the trash because it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, because that is all the times where there's zero body, and it's because they went
Hmm.
to a landfill.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
so
Always. Always.
yeah. So Derek here was found guilty after 3 hours of deliberation, and got a life sentence. And he was sentenced in the Old Bailey, by the way, very British.
Oh, no way.
Um,
Nice.
the Old Bailey.
The Old
He
Bailey.
got life with minimum of 30 years. At the sentencing, victims' families begged him to tell them what he did with their loved ones, and he
Oh,
didn't give them a fucking crumb. He had
fuck
reportedly
him.
showed no remorse at all through all of the trial, so he was just like cold faced.
Fuck him.
Um, Truly fuck him. Mrs. Guo's husband gave an interview and said, there's a extensive interview actually with him. That was like the one longer thing that
Hmm.
there is about this. But it's more about like Zhao Mei and her life, and like, so it's still worth reading.
Hmm.
But he said that he a couple heartbreaking things just to make you sad here. He said he didn't have the courage, quote unquote, to tell his sons what happened, because they were back in Fujian province in southern China, and he didn't have the courage to tell them what happened because they were asking, "Where's our mom? We miss her, quote unquote. Can we talk to her?" Um,
Oh,
yeah,
fuck.
yeah. He said, "I
Ugh.
don't want them to go through the same pain I am now suffering. We want her body so my children and I can say goodbye." And again, they're not getting
Hmm.
any shit from Derek here. Bonnie's mother also gave some interviews. Her name was Jackie Summerford, and she also asked Derek to tell her where her quote unquote precious little girl is, and gave heartbreaking pleas. And again, this guy's gave him nothing.
Fuck.
Um,
Ridiculous.
yeah. Oh, Zhao Mei's husband also said that she was a quote very beautiful, traditional, and thoughtful person, and what she really wanted was her family to have a happy and bright future. End quote.
Oh, God.
Lots of immigrants out there working really hard for not that much money, sending what money they do have back home. It's like heart wrenching.
Right. That's really fucked up.
Yeah. So victims came forward. Also, oh, this is crazy. So victims did come forward implicating him in at least 5 rapes. So he was a serial rapist. We
Oh,
know
so
that for
he's just
sure.
the fucking worst.
Yeah, he's working up to this perhaps too, like escalating type of thing.
Yeah. Hmm.
And then his murder spree, it's thought, was stopped basically at 2, but he would have probably kept going.
Oh, I'm
But
sure.
detectives basically have launched a review to see if he had links to any other cases, though, like if in case they missed any, even in that short little window.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's Derek, and I just want to say, like, you are not Jack the Ripper. Like, you are very, 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 very sloppy, and like Jack the Ripper was like a master at not getting caught, whoever he or she
Obviously.
was.
You know who he is.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Fucking
so
hell.
it's very interesting that this dweeb named Derek likened himself to Jack the Ripper. And again,
Derek.
the only thing that's similar is Whitechapel and there being a sex worker involved. Otherwise, it's really
Nada.
not similar at all. Like, dude, if you're gonna be a copycat to Jack the Ripper, I need you writing elaborate letters to the police. I need you wearing a top hat. I need you, you know what I mean? Like,
Right. You've got to be
leaving the
doing.
bodies in an alley, like
No, well, this guy's a fucking dickbag. What a fucking
dweeb.
idiot.
Yeah.
Total fucking dweeb.
One tiny little side note I thought you would find interesting. There's an article about the mom Bonnie, talking about how
Uh-oh.
uh, what?
No, Bonnie. I'm just
Oh,
uh-ohing her.
yeah,
Yeah.
Bonnie's mom did an article talking about how this case and like what happened to her daughter should be like using it as a call to for more places that like, and it's specifically London, to take the approach of the city of Liverpool, which is actually
Hmm.
really rad. So Liverpool basically uh, took this radical approach to how they deal with sex work, because they appointed, this is an exact quote, appointed intermediaries not directly employed by the police to help sex workers report violent customers, and they avoided making unnecessary arrests for soliciting, and they ordered officers to deal with violent crime against a sex worker as a hate crime.
Whoa.
So Yeah. So they're like actually specifically looked at them as a protected category and punished violence against them rather than punishing people for like consensually, normally um, participating in sex work, right?
Right.
Um,
Right.
so I thought
Okay.
that was interesting. Yeah. So Bonnie's mom was like, this is also it's an issue that there had been rapes, there had been violence committed against sex workers, and they didn't want to report it, right?
Right.
That could have gotten him stopped sooner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's dweeby ass, not Jack the Ripper, Derek.
Dweeby ass, not Jack the Ripper.
Yeah.
All right, I love it. I love it. I hate him. He's a piece of shit, but I love that he's a fucking dweeb, and that's how you ended that. Okay, I'm gonna do one that's less, I think, obvious than that. I don't know. You tell me. I'm gonna go back in time a little bit, not too far. I don't like old-timey crimes, really. But this is getting up there in age. I am going to do the Rose Mar killings. These take
Oh yeah.
place. Do you know this one?
No, I don't. I think I know vaguely because I googled it, but
Oh, right, because you were looking too. So I wrote that these took place on November 16th, but I know that that's wrong because it was November 12th because that was my grandma's birthday. So these took place November 12th, 1966 in Mesa, Arizona. The man in this case is 18-year-old high school senior Robert Bob Benjamin Smith, who lived with
okay.
his parents near the Rosemar Beauty School. Bob here was never a popular kid, never popular in school. Despite being pretty intelligent, ended up repeating a lot of grades. So he had social issues, issues with like learning or going to school. I'm not really sure exactly why he got held back. It might have been like emotional, like, maturity thing. It could have
Yeah.
also been due to the fact that his family moved every few years because his father was in the Air Force. But in any case, not a lot is known about young Bob's life, but it is known that he was very uncoordinated. And while, that's kind of normal for most young kids, as you're probably finding out, um,
Hmm.
this continued in throughout his life to the point where even as a teen, he couldn't tie his own shoes and couldn't ride a bike. So his
Oh,
lack of coordination was like kind of next level.
yeah. He's got
And
an issue.
yeah, there's something extra there. And the other thing was this was the 60s. So if you're not like playing sports as a boy, like you're not going to have a good time. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
if you're
For
on the
sure.
scrawny side, girls aren't going to like you, which they didn't like him. So he had a lot kind of going against him, right? And he never dated, didn't have friends. So that kind of paints a picture of this guy a little bit, I hope. I think it does.
Yeah.
It's a story we've heard 100 times. So the summer prior to, or that summer, I think it was the summer of 1966, Richard Speck, we all know who that motherfucker is,
Hmm.
murdered 8 nurses in Chicago, and Charles Whitman murdered 17 and injured an additional 31 in a mass shooting known as the Texas Tower shooting. So it was a very big year for crime. It's believed, because he said so later, that these horrific incidents were inspiring to Bob, who later said he,
Oh,
quote, wanted to get known, just wanted to get myself a name.
okay.
And we'll talk about how he did that. So soon after these murders that took place, these horrific, the Texas Tower shooting and Richard Speck's murders, Bob himself started putting a little plan into place. He decided that he wanted to become a mass murderer and that his victims would be either mostly or entirely all women because he hated women because they rejected him. And
Uh-huh.
he had misogynistic views and was just, he's in a very traditional Air Force family in the 60s. I mean, we're not thinking this is a progressive place, right? So it's very easy for like a sexually frustrated young man to kind of turn that frustration into hatred towards women. So he finally decided that his attack would take place at the Rosemar School of Beauty, which was only about a mile and a half from his house. and as you can imagine, filled almost exclusively with women. So he decided he was going to go early one morning, bind the women in the school, however many he could find,
Mhm.
put plastic bags over their heads, and watch them while they suffocated. Like, this was what he was like, this is how I want to
I mean,
murder
that
these
is
women.
spec inspired. Like that sounds
It is.
Speckian.
It does sound very Speckian, right?
Yeah.
So after planning this for weeks, he left his house, just like he said he would, early one morning with a brown paper bag containing 200 feet of nylon cord, a package of big plastic sandwich bags, which, like,
Mm,
what?
that's
I
not the
can't,
right bag for that.
yeah, I can't, like, not even a 2 gallon would work. Maybe, but probably not. How the fuck are you going to fit a human adult head in a sandwich bag?
I
But I
mean,
digress. I
okay.
mean, what's he doing? 2 hunting knives, a 22 caliber single action 6-shooter pistol, which his parents had given him. So that's what he's got. He's got rope,
Okay.
knives, a gun, and sandwich bags. So he's ready.
Oh, okay. Another dumb murder kit here.
Fucking insane. So, because they had great parental instincts, his parents thought giving their uncoordinated, super disliked incel son a gun was just like such a good idea. So that's how he got that. So anyway, this morning there happened to be a total of only 7 people in the beauty school. There were 3 students and 4 customers, which is more like 2 customers and 2 young children, aged 3 and 3 months. The women and children inside the college at this time were Joyce Sellers, 27. She was the mother of the 2 little girls, 3-year-old Debbie Sellers and 3-month-old Tamra Sellers. Glenda Carter, aged 18, Mary Olson, also aged 18, Benita Harris, whose age I did not get, and Carol Farmer, age 19. So we've got
Okay.
a lot of young women and children. When he arrived at the school at first, he walked into where these women were. It was very early in the morning, which is why the school wasn't like full of people. And he had a gun in his hand, and the women just kind of ignored him. They were like, "What's going on?" Like, he's so diminutive and so, like, small and scrawny that they weren't even, like, worried about the fact that he was carrying a gun, I guess. So to get their attention, he fired a shot into a mirror, and this, of course, terrified all of the women. He
Oh
then
my
told
God.
them to get on the ground. Yeah, I
Mm,
mean, scary. He, um He used this cord to tie them up. He forced them to lie in a circle like the spokes of a wheel with their heads in the middle and their feet facing out. So all these women's heads were like next to each other. It's unclear, what he told the women, but obviously this was a very scary situation.
yeah.
He did try to put the sandwich bags on their heads. You can imagine that didn't really work out, um, which would be funny. And thinking about it abstractly, it's funny, but thinking about like what these women were going through, it's definitely
Yeah,
not
it's still
funny.
horrifying. Yeah.
It's really horrifying. Um, and when one of the women started praying, he said, "What are you doing?" She said, "I'm praying. Do you mind that I do this?" Like, trying to not upset him. His answer was that he did, and the way that he expressed his anger at her for doing that was by shooting her in the head at close range.
Oh my God.
And yes, unfortunately, even at close range, this man was impotent in his actions and had to shoot her a total of 3 times before she died.
What? Wow.
Yes.
Overkill. Horrifying.
Well, he didn't do it right the first time, which
Okay,
sounds
so
maybe
I
like
guess not. Yeah.
par for the course. He then went around the circle, shooting each woman and the 2 children until they
Oh
were
my
dead or
God.
until thought they were dead. Yeah. Joyce Sellers, the mother of the 2 little girls, was able to shield her 3-month-old daughter, who was shot in the arm but did survive the attack. Benita Harris, whose age I didn't get, was also able to survive by playing dead, but the other 5 did not. It was pretty horrific. Like, Joyce apparently like started convulsing when he shot her, so he had to shoot her repeatedly. It was just a very horrifying act, and he was not worried about going quickly. Like, these women were suffering and terrified. It's horrible. Another woman entered the school during this attack and heard a man's voice inside one of the rooms, along with what she described as weird popping sounds. She then saw Bob with his gun and ran out and called the police. I don't believe that he saw her, but she saw him and called the police. The police arrived within 2 minutes and arrested a very calm and cooperative Bob Smith. Now, in fact, when they arrived, Bob laughed and said,
Mm.
I just killed all the women in there.
Oh my
And
God.
then,
That's chilling.
yes, and that's when he made the statement that he wanted to make a name for himself. So just completely like checked out from like the reality of what he just did, or just doesn't fucking care, you know?
Yeah.
So he was arrested. He was charged with 5 counts of murder and probably, attempted murder for the other two. He went to trial. There was a lot of contention about his mental health and like his mental state, which back then wasn't discussed in exactly those terms, as you can imagine. But basically, they were trying to determine if he was, fit to stand trial. His private life was torn apart. It was found that because he had no friends, he had unhealthy fixations on famous men, including John F. Kennedy, whose death was actually a huge turning point for Bob. So when JFK died, where was he shot? I forget where he was shot,
Dallas?
but Dallas.
Yeah.
And they lived there at the time because again, he was in this,
Mm.
Bob's family was in the Air Force and they moved a lot.
Yeah.
Begged his dad to go to the funeral because he was like obsessed with John F. Kennedy. He like loved him, and his dad wouldn't allow him to go. And it was later kind of reported by his family that like that was like a weird turning point for him where he became withdrawn, really quiet, and I think that was kind of what put him over the edge weirdly, like into this like let's kill people kind of frame of mind. So, anyway, it was also found that his interest in Richard Speck was more like an obsession. He had a lot of personality issues, that were warning signs that this would happen, but he had like serial killer like books and like not like trading
Uh-huh.
cards, but like fan, memorabilia kind of
Just
stuff.
like stupid Derek. Yeah. A little super
Yeah,
fan here.
exactly. Same thing. But Richard Speck was like his main
Okay.
focus. Like he was really into Richard Speck, which like if Richard Speck is your hero, my goodness,
I
like
mean,
that
honestly,
guy
they're both murderers, but that's so much lamer than Jack the Ripper, honestly.
it's so much worse. Like Richard Speck
Yeah.
was like he's such a loser. Like how is that guy
Yeah.
your hero?
Fucking
Like what the
dweeb
fuck?
idiot. Yeah.
Like Jack the Ripper can at least be like seen to be clever. He was potentially like super educated.
Yeah.
Like there were things about him that were like interesting at least. Richard Speck is just a disgusting turd. And like
There's
to be
nothing
obsessed
there to
with him,
idolize at all.
nothing. Not one thing. There's nothing to really idolize with Jack the Ripper, but again, at least there's certain things about him that are like
It's
interesting
old
or
timey.
show. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean that's also we're more removed from it, so it's a little easier to
He
like
did sign a
romanticize it
letter
in
like
certain ways.
and he did sign a letter like from hell. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, that movie from Hell's so good too. I love it.
Oh, it's so good.
Um,
Johnny Depp looks
and
pretty good in it.
oh my god, he does. It's a good
Yeah.
movie. Um, so anyway, the defense attempted to paint him as schizophrenic, but the prosecution had input from an informant in the prison who obtained multiple letters from Bob saying he wasn't actually like crazy, his words, but he had to be careful who he told because it could ruin his defense if the prosecution found out that he was actually like of sound mind and just pretending. This was brought to trial and he was found guilty and given the death penalty. And at this point, he wasn't laughing anymore. He didn't care about those women's
Mm-hmm.
lives, but he certainly cared about his.
Of
So
course.
yeah, he appealed this ruling. And while it was found that the letters were inadmissible due to them being asked for in a way that sort of like violated Bob's constitutional rights, like I read the case about it, it was a lot of like excess to just basically say like the cops essentially like asked this informant to like get this specific information, which means he was acting as an agent of the state, which they're not allowed to do. So essentially, like the information was inadmissible, but his sentence was upheld anyway. And it wasn't until 1972 that the moratorium on the death penalty went into effect and his sentence was changed to life with no parole. Now,
Gotcha.
this is pretty much the end of the story, but I did want to kind of call this out because I find it really interesting. Technically, this is a school shooting. Like it is. It's a beauty
Yeah,
school.
yeah,
Went into a
true.
school, it's a mass shooting at a school. So a lot of people have reviewed and researched this case and made one connection that I find really interesting. And the person that I read who made this connection was a man named Peter Langman, who is a PhD candidate. I'm not sure what he was researching, but I think I don't know. I think it was like psychology potentially. So he has a book called School Shooters, and what he finds is that not only does Bob like really perfectly fit into the category as a school shooter, but he fits the profile of a school shooter like super, super well. Now, some of the things that he found, I found this really interesting. And also, please note that there are so many school shootings that, like, of course, you're going to be able to like contrast and like compare and find, overlapping information. But this is super crazy to me. Eric Harris of Columbine, Robert
Mm-hmm.
Poulin of the Pius X school shootings of 1975, and
Mm-hmm.
Wayne Lowe of the Simons Rock school shootings were all 18, all had issues with their masculinity and did not
Mm-hmm.
date, all
Mm-hmm.
had aggression towards girls,
Yeah,
all had fathers in the Air Force, not the military, the Air Force. And Bob Smith
interesting.
fits every single one of those. 18 years old, issues with masculinity, aggression towards girls,
Mm-hmm.
psychopathic traits was another one, and fathers in
Mm-hmm.
the Air Force. So that's four.
Checks all the boxes. Yeah.
Yeah, and like down to the age, down to like the Air Force specifically. So I found that really, really interesting. That there's so many kind of, similarities between these people who are all like pretty famous school shooters. So
Yeah. There you go.
yeah,
And just
I want to
incel
call that out.
dweebs. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Like fucking dickbag losers with like probably like an abusive father who doesn't love them or
I would
doesn't
like to
tell them.
see a study about which percentage of them had decorative swords. That's what I'd like.
Let me just add that to the list right now because I guarantee you it's
Decorative
100%.
swords. Yeah. Collected swords. Um,
Oh
yeah.
my God, it's so real. That's so
Yeah.
true. Oh man.
Oh,
All right.
what a bunch of
Woo!
nerds.
What a bunch of fucking nerds. The people that like idolize other murderers to the point of like attempting to like replicate what they did is so fucking pathetic. Like
It's really sad. Yeah. Like get better heroes. There's better ones.
it's so crazy.
Um,
And like even people like Israel Keys, like when you get down to it, like they found a bunch of like books on serial killers and he was like obsessed with
mhm.
Ted Bundy. And it's like, what is going on with these people that like these are the people they look up to? Like, I don't understand. Like these
Yeah, I
kids are
mean,
not
I get being obsessed with Ted Bundy, but like not from the same point of view that
right.
they
You want
are.
to study him because there's so much to learn from his like really terrible, horrible behavior and like brain, you know? You're
Yeah,
not trying to learn to live like him. My God.
yeah. You're not like
Ugh,
he's the best. We love him.
yeah, I love him. Like, no, no, no.
Mm,
So yeah, there they are.
wow, copycats.
Yeah,
What are we doing next week?
copycats. We talked about this recently, and
Oh, okay.
then we have a listener, Katie, and I'm so sorry if you guys have written in and requested. Some people write in and they request specific cases, and we're always like, yeah, we'll do them, and then it's really hard for my brain to categorize those into a category that we can then do. So anybody who has
Hmm.
written in and requested cases, we are not ignoring you. Please email us again and give us a category that that case would fit into and then remind us of the category. So basically do our jobs for us.
Yeah,
But to be honest, if you give us a category and say this case fits into it, cover it, like we'll totally do it. If you just give us a case, again, right now we're so busy, it's hard for us to like be like, oh, let's look that up. Let's find what it's about, research it, figure out the category it fits into, choose that category. You know what I mean? So, like, if you guys
yeah.
can just give us a little bit of a help, that'd be amazing. So, this
Yes.
listener, Katie, says that they've been binge listening to the pod. They love it. Thank you. And then they asked, have you thought about doing road rage?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's definitely do it.
I think we should do it. Um,
Yeah, and I was just saying that this is triggering because I'm constantly telling my husband we're gonna get road rage killed because he's constantly gesturing angrily, making flamboyant arm movements and hand gestures, and I'm like, you're gonna get us murdered.
I do it all the time too.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was like a very 90s thing. Um, it was a very 90s response to like shoot somebody on the freeway because you're mad at them. I feel like it doesn't
Mm,
really happen that much anymore. They also Katie here also said that she said, I live in Oklahoma. We're in the top 10 for road rage. So let's see if we can find some Oklahoma road rage um stories just because Katie asked us to do this. I think that's really
okay.
cool and I would love to rep Oklahoma. I had the
All
best
right.
steak of my life in Oklahoma. So, uh
Let's do it.
down to give them some love. Yeah. I don't eat steak anymore usually, but back when I did, that shit was delicious. Okay, cool. So that's going to be our next category. Thanks everybody for listening, tuning in, and being patient with us while we get through our stupid busy lives and still get these out as best we can. Please like, rate, review, share with your friends, family, cousins. Cousins are great people to share this with. Cousins love true crime.
Absolutely.
Um,
It's my
they
cousin's
really
birthday
do.
today. I have to text him.
Oh, remind him to listen to our podcast.
I'm
Uh,
sure.
happy birthday. Don't forget about us. Yeah, so thanks again, you guys. And until the next set of cases,
Stay.
off our
Yes.
last. Bye.
Bye.